And a good afternoon, Thursday afternoon at that. Oh, even better, baby Friday. Welcome to the Fox 5 Live Zone. I'm your host, Guy Lambert. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, coming up on the show today, President Trump slaps more tariffs on Brazil. We'll break it down for you. Road trip, that's what many of you are saying this summer. But the question is, where are the best and worst states to take a road trip? WalletHub going to join us to break it all down. And are y'all ready for some football? Well, Super Bowl champion Kyle Arrington is, as he kicks off his Pursuit of Greatness summer football camp. He's going to join us live right here on the LZ. All that and more coming up on the show. But first, how about we talk weather, shall we?
Yes.
Tucker Barnes joining us. And I want to say, Tucker, we're not in Kansas anymore.
No, we had a tornado warning last night.
Let
me very quickly give a shout out to Kyle. He's a great guy.
Love that dude. Yeah, he's a great guy.
Really
always
good guy.
giving back in a major way.
I'll be watching. I always look forward to him. Yeah, and he does give back. Okay, let me give back. Maybe we could give back yesterday's weather when it came in.
Thank you.
And yeah.
Sheesh.
Yeah, that bottom line, that was a long evening with lots of warnings and tornado warnings and flash flood warnings and a lot of it verifying there last night. So let's calm things down. The good news with the forecast, and we'll go right to the good news, we are not expecting the same kind of fireworks out there later this afternoon.
Thank God.
So, yeah, got a lot of clouds in the forecast, still very sticky, still quite humid out there, and daytime highs in the mid-80s for us later this afternoon. But could there be a shower or storm for your Thursday? There could. But with all this cloud cover, we're not going to get the big billowing buildup of thunderstorms that we had yesterday. So that's the bottom line. 78 at this hour in Washington, 78 Dulles. Again, 85 is Guy, about 5 degrees below normal. So temperature-wise, we won't be too hot.
Okay.
It'll still be steamy out there. Hey, if you want to sweat with dew points in the 70s, it won't take much exertion to start sweating. And there's a live look at your satellite. You can see for yourself all the cloud cover across the area. And it will be in no hurry to kind of get out of here today. So, you know, could there be a peak of sunshine? Could you get a little sun here or there? You certainly could, but you're not going to get a lot. And that's probably good news, because if we got a lot of sunshine, guess what we get late today?
I know. It gives it fuel for a thunderstorm.
You got it.
Yes,
good
I
call.
listen, Tucker.
You put sunshine on top of the kind of humidity we had around here the last couple of days, and you got the makings of thunderstorms. So we won't put that sunshine out there today, and that'll help hold back on the thunderstorm activity. Big picture, the front that we've been talking about last couple of days is parked just to our north today, so we won't be the focal point for major thunderstorms. We'll reset tonight. So once again, could there be a shower or storm later today? There could, but they'll be very widely scattered. So we're in pretty good shape. Tomorrow we look good in the morning for the zip trip, and then the forecast going forward, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, temperatures about where they should be, upper 80s. Generally sunshine with a late day thunderstorm each day, but it won't be the kind of action that we had the last couple afternoons. So they'll be widely scattered.
Yeah, as soon as I got home yesterday, I took a nap and I woke up. I looked outside. The rain was going this way, not this way.
No, it was
this way. I was like,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was one mean-looking sky there for a period of time late yesterday.
Wow. Well, okay.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Tucker Barnes with all things weather right here
great
on the
day.
Live Zone. Appreciate it, sir. Hey, guys, you see that right there? Yeah, that's the Fox, what do we call that, Tucker?
That's the Fox local app.
Yeah, Fox local app. Okay, I'm still thinking about the rain. Excuse me. All you got to do is click on that QR code and you can download it. That way you can take that weather and think about the rain like me on the go. Well, this afternoon, new body cam video shows the moments after the deadly mid-air collision near Reagan National. Officers from the Alexandria Police Department were among the first to reach the scene along the Potomac. Officers quickly discovered seat cushions and small pieces of debris after an American Airlines jet and Black Hawk helicopter collided earlier this year. In all, 67 people died in that crash. Well, a manhunt continues for the man connected to a D.C. shooting that left a child dead. 24-year-old Charles Rucker is accused of shooting and killing 3-year-old Honesty Cheadle. The shooting happened around 3 Saturday morning on 14th Street in Southeast. Authorities now offering a $50,000 reward for information that leads to an arrest. Switching gears to politics, President Trump now slapping Brazil with a new 50% tariff. The commander-in-chief citing what he calls the unfair treatment of the former Brazilian president. Meanwhile, the White House has resumed sending weapons to Ukraine following last week's pause by the Pentagon. According to a report, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth ordered the pause to assess its weapons stockpile. Joining us now to discuss this and so much more, hey, our friend is back, Andrea Kaye from the Andrea Kaye Show right here on the Live Zone. Happy Thursday, Andrea.
Happy Thursday to you, Guy. Always fun to be with you.
All right, well, let's jump into it and have some fun. We'll start off with the 50% tariff that Trump has slapped on Brazil. You heard me make mention of the president really upset with the treatment of the former Brazilian president. This tariff now set to go into effect beginning August 1st. The president also said, well, he wants to make sure that Brazil does not respond, to which Brazil did respond, saying they will now impose a 50% tariff on America. A lot of back and forth here, Andrea.
Yeah, just like we've seen a lot of back and forth with Canada and other countries. Look, Brazil is no different, nor are these tactics any different than other countries and other tactics President Trump has used before, which so far has brought in, I've lost count, $17 trillion of investment into the United States. So look, and why would President Trump not look at elements like whether or not the country actually appreciates freedom as he's looking to negotiate with these different countries? Meanwhile, not only has all of his trade and tariff negotiations with all the countries brought in upwards of $17 trillion in investment, none of the doomsday predictions have come true in terms of inflation and other doomsday predictions. So I predict, like other countries, that we will end up with a good deal for both Brazil and the United States in the end.
Yeah, yet again, it appears you have that crystal ball sitting in front of you, or at least you have for quite some time, because both you and the president, as it seems right now, appear to be right. Well, the White House has resumed sending weapons to Ukraine following last week's pause by the Pentagon. Now, according to a report, you heard me make mention of this earlier, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth ordered that pause to assess its weapons stockpile. However, he did not seek White House approval before issuing the order. Now, an anonymous source from the Pentagon has, in essence, refuted those claims. What say you about this, Andrea?
Well, I'm going to say today the same thing that I said back when this proxy war funded by the U.S. government began. We never had a true national interest in this war. It was not our border to protect. Ukraine is not a NATO ally, nor are they even a democracy. And it's been a complete waste of taxpayer money, a complete waste of our military assets, and we should have never been engaged in this proxy war to begin with. And I think at this point, President Trump in the United States needs to say, we have no national interest here, we need to walk away. And that's how you end up bringing both sides together. Ukraine has the most to lose in this, but Russia, has a lot to lose as well. And I think in the end, the United States needs to get out of this proxy war.
But what about Hegseth apparently or allegedly sending this order or signing off on this, if you will, without President Trump knowing about it as well?
Well, I don't have any concerns with that. I mean, first of all, I don't know if it's true. Second of all, the Secretary of Defense I don't think really it matters bigger picture wise. I don't think we know definitively whether or not Pete Hegseth did that or not. I tend to brush aside the rumor mill and try to look for facts, because I tend to discredit anonymous sources, particularly when those anonymous sources are then fed to left-leaning organizations, left-leaning rags, and what they're meant to do is try to divide the Trump administration, try to divide him from his cabinet members. And I think bigger picture, I think for me and for conservatives, when it comes to Ukraine and Russia, we're more focused on putting an end to this, not the internal machinations of what's going on between Trump and Hegseth.
All right, we'll bring it closer to home in this case. Another hearing is set today for Kilmar Abrego Garcia. A federal judge in Maryland allowed the case to move forward earlier this week. Now, the judge denied the Trump administration's request to dismiss a civil lawsuit filed by Abrego Garcia. The Justice Department argued the lawsuit was moot since he is now back in U.S. custody, facing unrelated charges in Tennessee. Yet again, this continues to be an issue with the Trump administration. Andrea?
Well, the issue is that this man is back in the country. This man had his due process. He violated it when he broke into this country. He violated it when he was busted on video cam, by the way, committing acts of human trafficking. His own wife had gone and gotten restraining orders against him because he beat her, which had been corroborated by other witnesses, including her own sister. He was rightfully out of this country. The Department of Justice made a grave mistake in bringing him back and wasting our taxpayers' dollars to begin with on any of this. And when he is convicted, how much is it going to cost us to house this monster who should have never been in the country in the first place.
One of the other big headlines happens to have taken place today, and that's a judge now blocking President Trump's executive order limiting birthright citizenship for a class of every child it affects. It comes yet again after the Supreme Court curtailed judges' ability to issue nationwide injunctions against Trump's policies, but left the door open for challengers to try to seek broad relief by filing class action lawsuits. I got to tell you, Andrea, we have been covering this for quite some time, and it appears that there's no end or light, as they say, at the end of this tunnel.
Well, there might be. And the end of the tunnel might be when the Supreme Court actually hears oral arguments in October related to birthright citizenship itself. We have to remember that the Supreme Court was really just ruling on nationwide injunctions and rightfully said that you can't issue a nationwide injunction involving enjoining all of Americans because one or two people came into a courtroom. So therefore, we now have the plan for all of these class action lawsuits that would hamstring the Trump administration for years. But the Supreme Court can and should put an end to this in October. They should rule, rightfully so, that birthright citizenship was never intended for every Tom, Dick, and terrorist who crawled across the border to become an American citizenship. Or the babies of those who crawled across the border to become American citizens. So we'll see if the Supreme Court does the right thing come October.
We'll move on to space, the final frontier. In this case, we now know that Trump has named Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy as interim head of NASA. Now, history has shown that NASA administrators are typically selected from a pool of scientists, engineers, academics, or public servants, effectively leading the $25 billion, and I'll say that again, $25 billion agency in securing funding for projects for NASA. Is this the right choice, Andrea?
Well, I think when you compare it to the scientists in the past who oversaw things like the shuttle Challenger explosion, I think I'd rather have somebody with some common sense and some managerial experience and somebody who's been in Congress, somebody who's been an attorney, somebody with a good head on his shoulders than somebody that than the scientists and the engineers that oversaw so many of the disasters that have taken place at NASA. So yeah, I get behind Duffy.
All right. We'll end with this, and that is, when I saw this headline today, I had to do a double take. Can you believe it's been 1 year since the Trump attempted assassination? 1 year. And how politics has changed. Trump's defiant response helped clinch a campaign that had begun heading in his way. However, well, it increased his stature with such prominent figures as Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, not to mention a rising number of male voters. Now, surviving such a close call emboldened the new president himself once he moved back into the Oval Office. Any comments about this?
Yeah, you know, it's not the good times that show a person's character, it's the difficult times. And even before President Trump staved off a bullet that was aimed for his head, he looked down and stared down the face of tyranny that took place in courtrooms all across this country. And so when President Trump stood up in the middle of an assassination attempt and said, fight, 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 he showed who he truly is. He showed that he is a man who has such love of country that he was willing to sacrifice his life if he had to in order to fight for the preservation of the United States of America. He showed a man that was willing to make true sacrifices in the course of fighting for freedoms. And that showed such a depth of his character that was in contrast to the way that he had been portrayed by the legacy media, that many Americans were shook by it enough to come and support him in his return to the White House. And then he did something so bold. He hung the mugshot of which displayed and documented the tyranny that he faced down. He hung that in the Oval Office. We saw the true character of President Trump on display in Butler.
I've often wondered, had that attempted assassination not taken place, would the president be in the current role that he's in? Would he be in the White House? Would he be sitting in the Oval Office?
Well, I think that he would, because I think that, as I said, he was already on a path to win, because that character that we saw on display that day had already been seen in courtrooms. This was a man whose home, his family was mugged basically by the FBI down in Florida. His wife's underwear drawer was rifled through. Look at what he was put through in the trials in New York City, what he was facing in Georgia, as well as in DC. And he stared every bit of it down and said, I am going to continue to fight. You will not break me.
Bottom line, he's there now. Yet again, we have been speaking with Andrea Kaye. Andrea, folks that want to get a chance to listen to your radio show, how would one go about to do so?
Just go to AndreaKayeShow.com and you'll find all the details there. Thanks for having me, Guy. Always fun.
But of course, Andrea Kaye joining us yet again on the Live Zone. Well, as the flash flood recovery operation continues in Texas, politicians on both sides of the aisle have begun to point fingers. Sadly, this is now the norm when it comes to natural disasters. To talk about the politics of tragedy and where we are now, we welcome former longtime New Jersey State Legislator John Wisniewski. John, welcome to the show.
Guy, thanks for having me on.
I got to tell you, I have been a fan of yours for quite some time, got a chance to follow you throughout your career. I'm curious, with regard to what we're seeing now, and boy, how times have changed as of late, but how would you compare the politics of this tragedy with the similar event that took place in your state back in, what was it, 2012?
Well, I think that all of these tragedies have a certain element. I think it's just human nature. It's not politics. That there are going to be people who are going to look at what's happened and they're going to rightfully ask the question, what could have been done differently? When you go back to Hurricane Sandy, there were questions justifiably asked. Should the state of New Jersey allow homes to be built in such precarious locations that allowed them to be wiped out by a hurricane, which we know, which is reasonable to expect is going to happen every couple of years? And I think the same thing is happening now with what happened in Texas. This river is not a stranger to flash floods. And so the logical question is what was done to make sure that all of these children at Camp Mystic were safe? Was anything done? And look, if you hold political office, if you're involved in government and you're not prepared to have people ask those questions, especially when things go wrong, and you're probably in the wrong line of work.
Yeah, we have seen that time and time again surrounding the press conferences that take place on a daily basis. I'll just cut straight to the chase. Why do you think we're seeing this political football being thrown back and forth?
Well, I think that there are people who are unhappy with the questions being asked and they're calling it a political football. I disagree. I don't think it's a political football. When if you take a look at this river, every 3 or 4 years, it has a flash flood. When you look at how warnings were issued in the past and they're not being issued now, you have to ask the question, why? That's not political. That's not a football. That's part of the process. If we want to hold government accountable, we have to ask questions. And, there's a line from Harry Truman, who used to say, they accuse me of giving them hell. He says, I'm just telling the truth, and to them it sounds like hell. And I think that's a little bit of what's going on here.
So, John, why can't politicians, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say for the most part, admit when they're wrong? For me, I would say it would provide more credibility.
Oh, I agree with you. I think that, and I think you do see from time to time, you do see, for instance, there were times here in New Jersey. Now, I was a very fierce opponent of Governor Chris Christie, but there were times, I will admit, where he came to the table and said, look, I didn't do that well. He mentioned in the aftermath of Bridgegate that he wasn't minding the store quite as well as he should have been. And so I think that those elected officials, politicians, if you want to call them that, who are able to stand up and say, hey, look, this didn't go as well as it should have. I mean, look, I think Governor Abbott in Texas could have stood up and said there were applications for money to create a warning system in this area. The state of Texas said no. In retrospect, that was a mistake, and we're going to fix it. But instead, Governor Abbott is saying, I wish people would stop criticizing what we've done. That's really not helpful.
We got about a minute left, and with that, I will pose the question with all the back and forth. Look, it is what it is. The real issue is to make sure that this does not occur again and to make sure that we'll all can work together.
Absolutely. Look, I think there are a lot of lessons. And I think in any tragedy, the National Transportation Safety Board looks at airline crashes because they want to prevent those facts from reoccurring. So I think the officials in Texas, the national emergency response needs to be looking at what happened in Texas and what are the lessons that can be learned to prevent similar tragedies in the future.
Former longtime New Jersey State Legislator John Wisniewski joining us right here on the Live Zone. Sir, truly appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me on, Guy. Appreciate it.
You bet. All right, folks, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Well, for more than 20 years, America's vet dogs, well, it's trained and placed guide and service dogs to provide independence, enhanced mobility, and companionship to veterans with disabilities from all eras in active duty military. In 2015, America's Vet Dogs opened its program to first responders. Last night, America's Vet Dogs hosted an exclusive salute to Sully H.W. Bush, a facility dog at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center, and celebrated his 9th birthday. Sully rose to fame as the trusted service dog of President George H.W. Bush and shined an international spotlight on the extraordinary impact of service dogs on the lives of our nation's heroes. Joining us to discuss this and so much more is Mr. John Miller, President and CEO of America's Vet Dogs. Good to see you, John, and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us. Happy to be here.
I got to tell you, you've been quite the busy bee, sir. First and foremost, congratulations on all the success that you all have had. And I'm hoping for folks that are, dear God, crawling from under a rock and hearing about this for the first time, you could tell us exactly what took place last night.
Sure. We had a celebration. It's Sully's 9th birthday. And boy, we got a packed room of members of Congress, their staff, donors, and everybody we work with. So it was a great event, great energy, to raise awareness and to raise funds for America's Vet Dogs.
You know, one of the things that folks are also not aware of is that service dogs like Sully, I'm talking about Sully H.W. Bush, well, they are literally changing and saving lives. That's got to put a smile on your face.
Oh, absolutely. The impact is almost instantaneous, but certainly the longer veteran or first responder is with the service dog, they just have such a better quality of life. And, Sully's been really a great spokesdog, so to speak, for the cause and, shining a light on the services that are available for all veterans, not just the president.
I'm taking a look at B-roll here, and I don't know about you, John, but when I see that, I just start feeling warm and fuzzy inside. And I would assume the same thing happens with a lot of the first responders when they interact with the dogs as such.
Oh, absolutely. It's almost an instantaneous reaction, right? They're very anxious, very nervous before they get the dogs, and then you can just see a calm come over, the veteran or first responder when they get their dog, because they know their life's about to change.
Yeah, it's not easy to do this as well. And what I mean by that is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it costs more than and I'll repeat that again, $50,000 to breed, raise, train, and place one of these assistance dogs with America's Vet Dogs. Do tell.
Yeah, no, you got it right. It's a very human, labor-intensive process. It's a 2-year process. We work with trainers who are certified, internationally. So only the best of the best dogs go out, and it's a great curriculum that the dogs go through to be trained. And each dog is specifically trained for who it's going to. So Sully was trained specifically for President Bush, and we do 3 months of custom training for each dog once we identify which veteran they're going to be placed with.
That is just amazing to me. Can you expand on that with regard to the curriculum? Obviously, you just said that, Sully was trained for George H.W. Bush, but I would assume dogs are trained for, let's say, a first responder in a particular field and then a first responder in another field.
Oh, absolutely, right. So we take everything into effect, their lifestyle, where they live, if they're going to be using to train, flying on airplanes. A lot of dogs are trained to do retrieval and assist somebody who may be in a wheelchair, and also nightmare interruption. Right, that's a big task that we teach the dogs.
So it's all about giving back in a major way, and that's exactly what you all are doing and encouraging folks to do as well. It's dubbed #GivingBarkThursday. I had to read that several times before I got it. I absolutely love this. Tell me all about it.
Yeah, so today's the day, right? So a 24-hour day of giving for America's vet dogs. So as you mentioned, everything we do is free of charge, but it costs us well over $50,000, to get each dog ready, set, and trained in place. And there's no expense to the veteran. So everything we do is because of our volunteers and our donors. So I'd encourage everybody to go to vetdogs.org to learn how to volunteer or donate.
Yeah, John, it's not easy to be at the helm of this, if you will. You are leading the way, and one of the things that folks have highlighted about you is that under your leadership, the nonprofit has really seen an expansive growth that, yet again, it's got to put a smile on your face. I can tell you're a humble guy, but we have to toot your horn while you're here, sir.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's really a team effort. Our team is second to none. The quality of our people, our staff, our volunteers, the graduates we have across the country, all top shelf. It's there's no one person that does any of this. It's a true team effort.
So we'll end with this, and that is, if folks want to get involved, and what I mean by that is they're watching this right now, they're saying, you know what, I too not only want to perhaps lend from a financial perspective, but maybe I have an animal that, an extra animal that I can actually donate to the cause. Is that possible?
So we breed the dogs we use. They're all purpose bred.
Got it.
So we use Labs and Goldens and crosses of Labs and Goldens. So we would encourage everybody, if they could, to volunteer their time, and if they're in a financial position, to think about making a donation to the organization. I
absolutely love it. Yet again, today is one of the big days because we call it Giving Bark Thursday. That means you too can donate and give a helping hand and help this organization thrive unlike any other. Yet again, we have been speaking with Mr. John Miller, President and CEO of America's Vet Dogs. Continued success to you, sir. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, we appreciate you having us. Thank you so much.
You bet. All right, guys, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
For Texans and those kids, this type of wild weather event can hit any one of our states at any time of its own choosing. And all of our states have been affected at one time or another. Now, I want to talk about FEMA. Our experience in Vermont with FEMA is that it is absolutely essential and actually quite helpful in the immediate aftermath of the weather event. FEMA can pre-position resources. It has the capacity to surge resources and personnel, including people with real experience, and can coordinate with the local response, which is always very intense, from state resources and also from incredible outpouring of help from volunteers. But acknowledging the importance of FEMA in the immediate aftermath of a wild weather event in any of our states cannot disregard the fact that we need to reform FEMA. We need significant reform in FEMA. In the aftermath of the floods of 2023 and 2024, I visited all of our communities that were affected, and I followed up after that to talk to our local officials, our local volunteers, our local regional planning commissions. What worked and what didn't in the long-term response? And what I heard from officials, regardless of what their political orientation was, but local officials who had the real sense of urgency about getting the community back on its feet, was that FEMA was too slow, it was too bureaucratic, it was conflicting in the advice and information that...
All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Well, this afternoon, reaction pouring in after Israeli forces intensified air and ground attacks on Gaza, killing at least 55 Palestinians. All this as the head of the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees slams Israeli plans for mass displacement of Palestinians. Joining us now to discuss this and so much more is Mr. Harley Lippman, foreign policy expert, and he's kind enough to join us on the Live Zone. Harley, good to see you, sir.
Great to see you as well.
So, Harley, one of the headlines I saw today happened to surround the far-right government coalition allies of Benjamin Netanyahu, pressuring him to really abandon any truce talks with Hamas and work to destroy the Palestinian group. Any comments with regard to that?
This is the big challenge that Israel has to grapple with. Can they get what they need to have to really have peace and closure? And what does that mean? Bibi Netanyahu's policy has always been two things: get the hostages back and destroy Hamas. And that would create peace and stability in the Middle East. The problem is Hamas is only too aware of this. So they don't want to give up all the hostages because they know it's the cards they have. And if they do give up the hostages, they're saying Israel has to completely leave Gaza and declare an end to the war, which could be seen as a victory for Hamas. If even a few Hamas fighters could stand on top of the rubble and put up a flag, Hamas flag, and say, we survived nearly 2 years of war with Israel. And look at Iran, a country 80 times the size of Israel, lost in a war with Israel in only 12 days. We're the big stars in the Middle East. We're the winners. Hamas could claim a big propaganda victory, and that could reconstitute this organization and enable them to come back in other creative, deadly ways. Who knows? They've already stated many times that they'll come back and go after Israel, and they'll try to commit many October 7ths. So to your question of pressure from right-wing parties in Israel and Bibi Netanyahu, yes, they feel that unless you decisively defeat Hamas, you will not have peace in the region. And it's an illusion to think you're going to have closure.
Well, President Trump now stating that we are very, very close to a ceasefire deal. Also stating that should that deal actually come to fruition, Hamas has agreed to release 10 hostages. Yeah,
that's another challenge. The hostage families really are upset by that. They think it has to be one group entirely. It's a lot of stress on them because who picks the 10 out of the 20? It's a really difficult, it's like Sophie's Choice, Schindler's List. It's that gut-wrenching is which one does Israel pick to be freed? They generally pick the weakest ones, the ones that may be wounded, any elderly, women. It goes in order with male soldiers being the last one to be freed because they are considered to be the healthiest and have the best chance of survival. But for every hostage released of the 10, there's another one that stays behind, and it causes a lot of stress within the hostage families. So even this kind of deal, while 10 is better than nothing, causes a lot of grief and tension among hostage families.
We have a lot to cover here, Harley, including one of the topics and or discussions that a recent Israeli official made mention of, and that is intel now showing enriched uranium was actually at an Iran site when bombed. Bottom line, it looks like it was there all along.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that Iran had enriched uranium. They were enriching it at 60%, dramatically more than anything you need for civilian purposes. The only reason why they were doing it was to build a nuclear bomb. There could be no doubt about that. They're not building a nuclear reactor deep into a mountain for no reason. They're doing it because they know they're building a nuclear bomb, and they're trying to hide it from the Israelis and the Americans. So, this is a nation that has sworn to destroy Israel and the United States, and they're on the threshold of having a nuclear bomb. So what President Trump did was the right thing to do to preserve peace, to make a statement of non-proliferation. You don't want countries in that region to develop a nuclear bomb. And if Iran developed one, other Arab nations says they will get one. And in that part of the world, someone will end up using one. It also made a statement of deterrence that America is in the game, that America will use military force, act decisively and effectively. And I think all that created the conditions as to where I'm actually very optimistic. I think we're going to see many countries enter the Abraham Accords.
But will this all be derailed following what a top Iranian official had to say yesterday, and that is threatened to kill President Trump at his Florida estate using a drone, saying that they would do so perhaps while he sunbathed. President Trump then responded by stating he took that as a threat.
It is a threat. You know, Iran has tried to assassinate President Trump before. Federal prosecutors in New York arrested a man in Afghani and charged him with the attempted assassination of President Trump. And he apparently escaped from the United States and is presumed to be in Iran now. There's a lot of evidence that Iran has publicly said and has taken action to assassinate other Trump officials from the first administration. So this is a country unlike China, North Korea, or any nation that has nuclear weapons. They have said that they want to destroy a sovereign nation. They have tried to assassinate the President of the United States. They have killed hundreds, if not thousands, of Americans. They have played every American president since Jimmy Carter. They're the one country that's devoted to our destruction, and we have to believe them. You know, it's arrogance to think we know better what they mean than their own words.
Yeah, my grandmother, I remember her telling me when someone says something, believe it. We'll end with this, Harley, and that is, I got about a minute left, and that is how the Middle East has drastically changed from 3 months ago. I know this is something that was top of mind for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why, as I mentioned earlier, I'm optimistic. It has changed dramatically. I think we're on the cusp of a golden era in the Middle East and a lot of peace between Israel and Arab neighbors, starting with Syria, Lebanon, probably Qatar. And the reason for that is, like anywhere in the world, but particularly in the Middle East, people want to go with the winners, the ones who are strong, the ones who are reliable, the ones who are decisive, and above all, the ones who win. And that's the American-Israel partnership. Finally, Israel and the United States took the fighting right to the enemy's backyard, and Israel committed a military campaign that was one of the most brilliant in history, taking out a country 80 times its size. It's like Cuba taking out the United States. Extraordinary. The Arab world took note of that. They saw none of Iran's proxies lifted a finger to help them. The Houthi didn't do anything, really. Hezbollah didn't do anything. Neither did Russia or China do anything to help Iran. So it really sent a message to the Arab world that America and Israel are the strong new superpowers in the Middle East. They're reliable, and they're the ones to attach your cart to, if you will. Join them in an alliance, develop the region in the Middle East, upgrade it, which will be a benefit to all people, especially the Arab people in the Middle East, will have a chance to thrive and fulfill their potential as opposed to be mired in war and hatred.
I've said it many a times, and I'll say it again. We all are hoping for peace within that region. We've been speaking with Mr. Harley Littman, foreign policy expert, yet again, kind enough to join us on the Live Zone. Always good to see you, Harley. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
All right, guys, we'll take a quick break. On the flip side of that break, let's have some fun, shall we? An early edition of What to Watch. Producer Chris, up next, right here on the Live Zone.
We learned now a couple of days ago that after counting all of the day campers and other people who were camping alongside the Guadalupe River during the 4th of July weekend, where they were expecting to celebrate the nation's birth, but also fireworks displays and cookouts and things like that. Unfortunately, people outside of the organized camps, mainly children and counselors, 170 of them are missing in addition. So for many of my constituents back home in Texas, the nightmare is not over. Of course, these loved ones who were lost were mothers and fathers and teachers, high schoolers, and precious children, young children. Those who died at Camp Mystic, an all-girls Christian summer camp, included 2 8-year-old girls from Austin named Lenny McGowan and Mary Stevens. And as hard as it is to look at the pictures of these young girls, I think it's important to remember these are not just numbers. These are human lives that were lost in this tragedy, and families left behind who will never, ever forget this terrible tragedy nor fully recover. These 2 young girls were sleeping in a cabin called the Bubble Inn, which was close to the banks of the Guadalupe River. Lenny attended Cassis Elementary School in West Austin.
All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone with producer Chris, an early edition of What to Watch.
That's because tomorrow we're going to spend all of our time talking about Superman.
Love it.
Because you know how geeked I am about that. But today, I get to talk about something else near and dear to my heart. Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's back for another all-new season, premiered last night. First 2 episodes out now, streaming on FX, Hulu, Disney+, wherever you get your content. Now, we have to talk about a couple things. First of all, this season continues the crossover episode with Abbott Elementary that began with Abbott's most recent season. However, when the gang joined Abbott Elementary, it was Abbott Elementary's style and sense of humor. So more family friendly.
Sure.
Last night, the Abbott Elementary gang joined It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and it was much more R-rated. I will just tell you that. I have already seen clips of Quinta Brunson using a 4-letter word that may make you clutch your pearls. This is the 17th season of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Wow.
Spanning 20 years. The show has no end in sight. This time around, the gang, all new adventures, including Frank going on to another ABC property because the FX, the whole, remember we were talking about HBO Max yesterday? Now they're owned by Disney. It's a whole thing. However, he goes on The Golden Bachelor. Frank Reynolds, if you're familiar with the character, is rarely looking for love. Let's just put it that way. Hijinks ensue. You can check it out for yourself. What's amazing about this show is the stars that it has made of all of the actors and actresses. Danny DeVito already was one, but he's just shown off a whole new side of himself. It has been on for 20 years. It is so popular. It has won 0 awards.
Wow.
It has barely been nominated for any. The actress who plays Dee Reynolds, who is Rob McElhaney's real-life wife, has 2 Emmys, and they are both for projects she did that have nothing to do with this show. They acknowledge that frequently about whether it's just them that turns off critics or what, but it's a fascinating subplot to the longest-running live-action TV show of all time.
That's amazing to me. And to your point, well-deserved. I'm thinking maybe The Sopranos could have done that. West Wing could have done that. There are very few shows that could just keep on going and going and going.
The guys seem to be having a good time, and they're bringing us along for the ride. Next up, we have a new series on Netflix. It's called Too Much. Now, what's interesting about this one, it is from the mind, the creative spirit of Lena Dunham, who you know from HBO's Girls. She is the writer, the creator, and the director of this new show, and she created it along with her real-life husband. It stars Megan Stalter, who you know from another HBO show, Hacks. Also, Will Sharp, who you know from HBO Season 2 of The White Lotus, the one set in Italy. Also, Andrew Rannells, you see pop up in this trailer, and Emily Ratajkowski. It basically tells the story of a woman. After a bad breakup, she decides to move to London to kind of pursue the man of her dreams, a real charming Hugh Grant type, who she runs into instead is a walking red flag. But he may be perfect for her in this moment in her life. All of the episodes out right now on Netflix. So another one that I think will probably strike a chord with
Yeah.
a certain demographic. I'm talking about my wife. All right, next up, we've got Foundation Season 3. That's over on Apple TV+. It's based on like a best-selling novel, but it's like a really dense fantasy world with a ton of characters. If you watch it, then you're excited for Season 3, and if you haven't or don't plan on it, then just keep moving along. Next up, we've got Ballard. This is a spin-off to Bosch, also on Prime Video, starring Maggie Q this time. And then over on Paramount Plus, we have another sequel / spinoff to Dexter, which was a huge Showtime hit back in the day. This is Dexter Resurrections. If you saw the latest sequel, it ended on a little bit of a, hey,
Yep.
did he or didn't he? He clearly didn't. He's back. Also, so is Detective Angel Martinez, aka David Zazzy, pursuing him. So the original cast, they got some of them back together. You can check that one out on Paramount Plus. All right, now that's some of our new series. Now we got to talk about new movies.
Let's do it.
And Tyler Perry just keeps cranking them out. The man has a good deal with Netflix, and he delivers once again. This time we've got Medea's Destination Wedding. This is the 13th chapter in the Medea franchise.
Hallelujah.
Tyler Perry brings back some of his cast of characters, including David and Tamala Mann. You see them in the trailer as well. This time, Medea is going on a destination wedding to the Bahamas. Long story short, I'm sure we will hear plenty about this one on social media after people have the chance to check it out. You can check it out for yourself tomorrow. This one drops on Friday.
I bet you that's going to be, as the kids would say, off the chain. Why? Because he doesn't have to do this anymore. Just have fun.
And I think, don't quote me on this one, but it's definitely, his deal with Netflix is relatively recent. He just started creating content for them. So this will be the first streaming premiere for a Medea movie.
Good stuff.
It will probably be huge. All right, next up, we've got Operation Aunties. This one is over on All Black, and it stars Tisha Campbell. This is a little bit more of like a dramedy. Let's just put it that way. You can learn more about this when Tisha Campbell joins us live in our 10 o'clock hour of Good Day tomorrow. Also, we've got Zombie 4. This is the Rise of the Vampires. This is a Disney Plus. This is more for kids. It premiered tonight on actually the Disney Channel, then tomorrow streaming on Disney Plus. It's the 4th chapter in the franchise, so if you've seen the first 3, I'm sure you're excited about the 4th one. Next up, we've got Quarterback Season 2. This is from Omaha Productions, which is the Manning brothers, Peyton specifically. The first season, Patrick Mahomes, a few others, then they did the wide receiver. This time, we're back to the quarterbacks. It follows, this time around, Jared Goff, Joe Burrows from the Cincinnati Bengals, and once again, Kirk Cousins. Because apparently we're fascinated with Kirk Cousins.
He was on the first, I watched it,
Yes, he was, and now he's back for Season 2, and his career has obviously hit some bumps in the road. He's no longer with the Vikings. He's no longer with the Commanders either. But the man has gotten paid in the meantime.
Yes, he has.
And I'm sure he got paid for this as well. So you can check that out on Netflix once again. And then, I hate to end on a little bit of a bummer note, but also on Netflix we have a series called Building the Band. Here's what makes this interesting. There's a couple things. One, it stars Liam Payne. This was his final project, the former One Direction member before he passed away back in October. AJ McLean from the Backstreet Boys, Kelly Rowland from Destiny's Child, and also Nicole Scherzinger from the Pussycat Dolls. It's the first time I've ever had to say that on TV. And I got a little sweaty, I'm not gonna lie to you. This is a sort of Love is Blind meets Making the Band. So musicians come on the show, and they're in pods, and they have to decide whether they want someone to team up with to build their band sight unseen. All they hear is their voice and the vibe that they have in this. So it's a combination of 2 different types of reality shows. It begins with a tribute to Liam from AJ about his loss and dedication to his memory.
Wow.
So it looks like a fun show, but just a heads up, there will be some tender moments right at the very beginning.
All right. And that's out now, or it's...
That's out now on Netflix.
Okay, I know what I'm going to watch tonight. All right, good stuff.
I mean, you know I love my Love is Blind. And
yes, you do.
Throw in a little music.
And tomorrow,
superstars.
We're talking Superman.
Tomorrow
Speaking of
we're
superstars?
talking about Superman. It
Absolutely
hits theaters officially tomorrow. I got a chance to talk to former Washington Post comic book culture writer David Betancourt. Really went down a long path about the character's legacy, his
Sure.
history, how he's been portrayed. I'm excited about it.
All right, good stuff. Producer Chris with what to watch right here on the Live Zone. We're going to take a quick break. Hey, speaking of teammates, our next guy coming up, you love him, I love him. We're talking about Kyle Arrington. Ooh. He has a football camp we're going to chat about. And then later on in the show, Bitcoin hit an all-time high. Oh. That's what you call a combination. That's coming up next right here on the Live Zone.
I missed that.
Freshman. Chloe lost her life in the flooding, and Catherine remains unaccounted for at this time. As a father of 2 daughters, I can't imagine what these parents are going through, or grandparents, or family, or friends, given the loss of these young girls, these lives that had only just begun. For those who are still waiting to hear news about their missing children or family members, we know that they should know that we are doing everything humanly possible to find them and to bring them home. And while I can't show the photos of every person who's died or still missing due to the flooding, I want all who've lost loved ones to know that the prayers of those of us here, and I believe across the nation, are lifting them up and are with them during their time of unimaginable grief. Madam President, I yield the floor.
A series of poker is currently underway in my hometown of Las Vegas, Nevada, where tens of thousands of Americans converge around one of the largest and most prestigious gaming events across the globe. This world-renowned tournament and the visitors who flock to Nevada to witness it help drive my state's economy. Anyone who's ever heard of Las Vegas knows that our gaming industry is a massive contributor to our state GDP.
All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Thank you so much for watching. Just real quick, in a couple of minutes, we're going to chit-chat about Bitcoin hitting an all-time high. That'll make you say touchdown in a major way. Speaking of touchdown, my next guest, well, it his job day in and day out in order to make sure wide receivers didn't get a touchdown. Why? Because he happened to be one of the best cornerbacks on the planet at one point. Now he's giving back in a major way. Yes, I'm referring to former NFL player and forever Super Bowl champion, my friend Kyle Arrington, back here on the Live Zone. Good to see you, Kyle. Welcome back to the show, my man.
My guy. What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, I got to tell you, you are the man. And I'm saying that for so many reasons. One, because of what you did on the football field.
I'm the man who's going with the man.
But more importantly, it's what you're doing off the football field now. In this case, I'm referring to the 10th annual Pursuit of Greatness football camp that's set to get underway this weekend.
Absolutely. No, we're looking forward to it. And as I actually report live from Frederick Douglass High School up in Marlboro, man, shout out PGCPS, as a former student athlete myself. So we're actually putting the finishing touch on a high school weight room renovation project. The foundation is also undertaking. So quite the busy, I guess, impactful community weekend.
Yeah, but Kyle, I'm thinking 10 years, okay? Year one, you kind of getting your feet wet. Year two, you kind of got it together. By this time, they're calling for you, meaning the folks are saying, we got to have Kyle show up. Not only that, but you all have now moved on up, as they say, because this is actually taking place at Bowie State University.
Yes, sir. Yeah, man, you hit the nail on the head. The first opportunity, wanted to go out there, try to give back the best way we can. And as you put the flyer up, you see everybody who's the support, the community comes out and shows up. And honestly, I couldn't be more just eternally grateful. We got a great team, great planning committee, great coaches who devote their time and commitment to make sure it's always a well-run, well-organized camp. Yeah, but I'm so looking forward to this Saturday. I can't say how excited enough I am.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I think of football, initially I would think of just the guys. I'm so wrong. This is for the guys and the gals.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny you even mentioned that. So we've had, I would say maybe after our 7th go-round, we've had more and more female participants. And you just see where we are where it comes to, the female and girl sports. And so we actually have an actual 7-on-7 high school flag team who sign up all 15 of their girls. So, so anybody out there watching, the fellas, when you bring your cleats, we bring your cleats, but also bring your mind. Make sure you have your mind right too. Those ladies, they're not going to take it easy on.
Kyle, I got about a minute left, and I want to make sure, obviously, this is a team effort and a team effort in a major way. Not only does your family take part in this, but you have some amazing sponsors as well.
Exactly. Oh my, we try to run down the list, man, best as I can. Giant Food, Costco, our ice guy art sponsor. The list goes on. And Charlie's Pizzas. To your point, Guy, this is what winning looks like. As I said here, report live from Frederick Douglass as we do the weight room renovation and see everybody, like I said, devoting their time, commitment to try to put our kids in a best possible position to be successful. And that's what it is. That's what I learned through sports, particularly football. It's about trying to put each other in the best position to succeed. And this is the epitome of it where I am right now. This is the epitome of it, what the camp represents as well. So I'm just grateful for 10 years of community continues to show up and show out. And even you see on our list, even we got our main girl, like the legend herself, Erin Como, is going to step on the field. I told her to bring her cleats, so we'll see.
Here's the funny thing about that, Kyle. I'm pretty sure that if you put me against her, she's going to kick my butt. I can guarantee you that.
Hey, you and me both.
Yet again, we've been speaking with former NFL player, Super Bowl champion, and my friend, Mr. Kyle Arrington. It's not too late to take part. It's the Pursuit of Greatness football camp, yet again taking place this upcoming Saturday on the campus of Bowie State University. Always good to see you, my friend. I'll see you Saturday.
Always a pleasure. Looking forward to it. Maybe bring your cleats too.
Will do. All right, guys. When I show up, hopefully at some point, I'll be able to say touchdown. And I know a lot of folks that own Bitcoin, well, they're saying touchdown in a major way today as well. You see, Bitcoin surged to an all-new time high, briefly topping $112,000. It's the strongest level this year, before settling back around $111,000. Now, despite the surge, some would argue that they're still skeptical about jumping into crypto. That's where my next guest comes into play. I'm pleased to say that I'm joined by Mr. Kurt Hopkins. He's the CEO of MCQ Markets, and he's kind enough to join us right here on the Live Zone. Kurt, good to see you, sir, and thank you so much for being patient.
Great. Thank you for having me.
So, Kurt, let's just jump right into this. This is a great day, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a great day to really be involved in cryptos, more specifically Bitcoin.
Yeah, it has just been amazing. Last couple of days, we have hit an all-time high, and I can see right now, I'm looking at my screen, we're at 112,700. So it's been a good day, and I think it continues to be strong. All-time highs today being hit for Bitcoin, but also for the rest of the industry as well. We're seeing all cryptos across the place, all of the tokens across the market. There's a $3.45 trillion surge in price. So you're seeing, many boats being lifted right now. I think most things are in green, anywhere from Ethereum to Solana to Dogecoin. Yeah, so it's been a great day for crypto and crypto investors overall.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I own quite a bit of Dogecoin. So when you just said that, that definitely put a smile on my face. I got to ask, because I'm pretty sure so many viewers are asking the same thing. Why the surge? What happened?
Well, there's lots of convergence of events going on. Obviously, we've had a change in regulatory posture by the U.S. government. You have Paul Atkins, the new chairman of the SEC, is on board. He's been in post for a couple months now, I believe, and you're starting to see some changes coming through. Just today, there was an announcement with regard to some specific requirements put on brokers that are handling crypto, and especially these DeFi exchanges. And so some of the regulations were pulled back on that. And so that's been positive. But the main thing that's been hitting has been this wall of institutional investments that's coming in, both from companies that are doing treasury strategies. That means they're buying Bitcoin and Ethereum in bulk, and other coins as well. And so that's driving the price. You have all kinds of funds being announced day by day. But then also you have these ETFs. So there's been a big surge of these exchange traded funds in both Bitcoin and Ethereum. and Solana as well. And so that's starting to drive the market. And you're starting to see also some of those that are betting against the market have been shorted. So I believe there's $500 million of shorts which were liquidated in the last 24 hours as well. So it's been really a bull run these last couple days.
And so is this, Kurt, a one-off, if you will, or will we continue to see the momentum behind Bitcoin?
Well, I wouldn't be the one that would want to predict, but certainly we've seen, in spite of some significant falls over the years and significant volatility, that Bitcoin keeps moving from strength to strength. So I personally, not investment advice, but I personally would think it will continue to be strong. But obviously we're at an all-time high, and so you're going to probably see some profit taking, I would think, at this point. But certainly there's been lots of folks who have been predicting this thing is going to be pushing way north of this, through the rest of this year. So let's see what happens. But it is certainly fascinating times. And I think the other really interesting thing that's happening is you're seeing more and more projects in what's called RWAs. These are real world assets. So you had a major announcement for tokenized equities outside of the U.S. Last week by Robinhood and Kraken. And so you're seeing all these announcements coming out with companies that are starting to innovate with new products and new investment products, mainly outside the U.S., but all that is going to be coming to the U.S. as the rules get clarified in the coming weeks and months. So I think people are just very optimistic about what's happening from a regulatory standpoint, and they see America and the U.S. is going from a laggard in crypto and on the regulatory side to being a leader, and that is very exciting, I think, for the industry.
Yep, we all know when there happen to be zeros in that bank account, there are more smiles, and that's always a good thing. Yet again, we have been speaking with Mr. Kurt Hopkins. He's the CEO of MCQ Markets and kind enough to join us on the Live Zone. Thank you so much for being patient, sir.
Thank you.
All right, guys. It's 1 minute past the top of the hour. We're going to take a quick break. On the flip side of that break, Al Reynolds joins us. A little celebrity dish coming up next, right here on the Live Zone.
It's not becoming less dangerous, it's becoming more dangerous. When we beefed up border security, we also thought it right and proper to ensure that our religious institutions were cared for, that we continued to incentivize their critical investments in education and other important causes. And unfortunately, it was through a democratic bird process. It was a partisan effort to initiate a process to strip out the provisions that would have exempted religious institutions from a tax that should not be applied to them. So I seek, Madam President, I seek an exemption on behalf of all these religious institutions across the country that are broadly supported, at the same time that I seek relief for the senator in Nevada in the interests of her state for gambling purposes. Thank you.
The objection is heard. Senator from Nevada.
Thank you. I have to say it is a shame that we cannot pass this common sense fix, S-2230, because Republicans want to weigh it down with unrelated measures that they voted to support. Now, I appreciate my colleague from Indiana, and I hope we can work, because I know he supports S-2230, to try to get this passed and fix this. This is something that my understanding is many Republicans, along with Democrats, did not even know it was part of that process. And I hope we can. But I hope it doesn't get caught in this constant churn now.
All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone, time for a little celebrity dish. And look what the cat drug in.
Cat drug in is right.
Media personality extraordinaire Al Reynolds joining us right here on the LZ. Good to see you, my
man,
friend.
It's good to be back here. I feel like I missed you.
Yeah, man. I love the summer attire.
Thank you.
Now, that's how you do it.
Look, I had to wear a guy out because y'all know guys dress nice all the time. So when I actually get to work with him, I actually pay attention to what I'm going to wear.
Well, we're paying attention to you in a major way. You know what else we're paying attention to? Beyonce. Beyonce.
Ooh.
Yeah, she was just here not once but twice over the weekend.
That's right.
Well, apparently, a lot of folks are saying, excuse me, we're getting word that Beyonce might very well throw in the towel.
No way.
What? Can you believe it? Well, a number of folks are saying they're looking at the poor ticket sales of the Cowboy Carter tour, on-stage tech malfunctions, and of course her choreography issues. The 43-year-old singer is in the last few weeks of her current tour. It began back in April, Al, ends at the end of July. Just recently, as you heard me make mention, she was here in D.C., and so was this guy, Jay Jones. He's the PR guru extraordinaire, joining us live from, I don't know, wherever you're at, Jay. New York or Paris, where are you at today, sir?
I'm in the Poconos, but I'm glad to be part of the show. Look at you, dapper duos over there in D.C. Listen, when they told me Commanders and Cowboy Carter, I was there.
So, Jay, before we toss to your daughter, who happened to be there as well, you got a chance to take her. What did you think about the tour overall, the show?
Well, that's just it. It was a show. You know, I'm not a huge Cowboy Carter fan, but the show, to me, was amazing. Undiluted, a lot of energy. It looked like she was making it almost for a film as opposed to a concert with all the lightings and pyro, the dancing, the large stage. I couldn't believe how large the stage was. It was almost like watching a tennis match because your head was going back and forth, back and forth. You know, the biggest thing I think to me about it was that there was my favorite song, Protector, and Blue. It seemed like Blue really rocked it, but like you were saying earlier, the show's coming to a wrap. And I think it's wrapping in Vegas. She just hit Atlanta. Of course, she crushed it. I don't know if she crushed it in D.C., but I had a great time.
Okay, so Jay, here's the thing.
My child.
That's coming from an old guy like you and an old guy like me, and I won't tell this guy's age. So let's hear what your daughter and her friend had to say.
Okay.
She sang her old songs, like Diva, I think was the name. I really like that. She sang like Single Ladies and Tyrant. What's the song's called? That.
So they're just short and sweet and to the point. In other words, they absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you are now the best dad on the planet for taking your daughter to check out Beyonce.
I got props. It was an early birthday gift. I got props for that. So I was happy to see that she enjoyed it. And, you know, there's a long story to that. I won't bore you, but you almost missed a flight. You couldn't get the car. The service wasn't there. The boots got lost. But ultimately, it all came out together. So that's why, in my heart and soul, I enjoyed it. But I enjoyed I didn't have a cowboy hat on, but many 65,000 or so had cowboy hats on, boots. The people were there. They were wrapped and ready to go, denim jeans and so forth. I was just sitting back, you know, enjoying the atmosphere, right. The dancing. I was so happy she sang some of her old songs that I could connect with. That made it more enjoyable for me.
All right, so it appears that Jay does not want her to retire. Jay, we truly appreciate you joining us right here on the LZ. So I'll pose that question to you now.
Have a wonderful day.
Blah, 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 blah. I don't want to hear you talk about Beyonce possibly retiring. Absolutely not. This is the greatest entertainer in history that we've seen thus far. Female entertainer in general. We love her. She shifts the culture. She shifts the game. I can't imagine music and the culture without her. So please, Beyonce, if you can hear me, I'll call Mama Tina if I need to now. Please, no retirement anytime soon, unless you're having another child.
Yeah, but I tell you, Al, I mean, she is, in essence, reached the billionaire status. She's
That's right.
doing this for fun now, not because she has to generate any revenue.
Right, and I love how she's introducing her daughter and making sure that her daughter is taken care of, and we love that about Beyonce. She makes sure everybody in her camp is taken care of and relaunches careers and launch new ones, and I love every second of it. Please don't retire.
All right, you made mention of Mama Knowles. In this case, Mama Knowles making headlines today in a major way, and it all surrounds Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj has been airing out her beef with Jay-Z, Megan Thee Stallion, and Roc Nation as a whole for several days after mocking Meg for a lawsuit a former cameraman filed against her. The rapper turned her attention to Jay-Z. Now, Mama Knowles woke up this morning and said, you know what? I'm going to take to social media. And you can see it right there for the most part. The caption, which was also reposted by Knowles, reads, "Good morning. It feels good to wake up knowing my faves didn't lose their minds. Y'all have a great day and remember to ignore the ignorance."
Ooh, when she cuts deep, right? Mama knows this is the best thing I love about Mama knows. She does it with such grace.
Yeah.
Like she will freaking check you with such grace. But I also love the fact how Mama knows is always very protective about her kids, her grandkids, her kids, her stepson. I call him stepson. I don't know why I keep calling JC her stepson, but
her son-in-law.
Her son-in-law, and just everybody. I like this about her. I like this characteristic about her. But I also like Nicki Minaj not holding punches because she doesn't care how big they are on the other side. She's gonna always speak her mind, and that's what we love about Nicki. And I love the fact that Nicki's like, listen, if you can pick on me, I can pick on you.
Well, one thing's for sure, Nicki Minaj will not be performing at the Super Bowl anytime soon.
No time soon, baby.
That I can guarantee. All right, we're going to move on to rapper Big Sean. In this case, putting rumors to rest and setting the record straight. We got a lot of setting the record straight today, Al.
Love that.
He says he didn't get his abs from a surgeon or from steroids. They are real. Yesterday, a health influencer made a video speculating about Big Sean's recent gym pics, comparing them to the ones back in 2015. The content creator said if they could put money on it, they'd think he started taking steroids.
Ooh.
Wow.
How absurd is that? Listen, the man has always had a nice body. He was in a fitness magazine, for goodness sake. Also, you got to understand that he just has discipline and genetics, and when the two meet, you get that.
Yeah.
We know that his mother is a school teacher. They're from Detroit. Did you know that his grandmother also served in the Civil War, the Second Civil War, and she was also one of the first lieutenants or captains in the U.S. Army. So this family comes from discipline. This family comes from working hard, and his body reflects it. Now, he's getting older, and he let that influencer have it who said that it could be implants and steroids. He went into his DM and said, no, sir, you're not going to lie on my body. I put a lot harder work into it. He said it's genetics, it's hard work, and he said, also, I'm chasing a terrible two around the house. His son, he said, Noah, his son, he's been chasing around the house, and he's keeping him very lean, and he's keeping him very fit. I believe him.
Yeah, put some respect on his name and
on his ass.
On his ass. As we wrap up, you are just so busy, man. And obviously, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're now back here in the D.C. area.
Yes, I'm back in the DMV. You know, obviously teaching full-time at Bowie State University, or lecturing full-time at Bowie State University. I also am starting to lecture in the prison systems. I'm working with Georgetown University prisons program. Townsend State, I hope that they get their prison program up and going by the end of the year. But of course, in the fall, I'll also be teaching at Bowie State's prison program. I feel like it's necessary that we start to focus on these incarcerated men that look like you and I, because when the statistic says that more of them are incarcerated than are in college, then we have an issue.
Yeah, that's a major issue. Speaking of incarceration, your show that you have been
putting
covering
people
also
in jail.
well, followed Diddy all the way to the end, and it's still somewhat ongoing. But just real quick, your overall take on what we saw.
Well, you know what? It's just a really sad and, for me, unfortunate thing. I think the overreach really has caused or created a position where he is not going to serve that much time for the heinous things that he has done.
Yeah.
And it's because the charges that they tried to bring against him, they just couldn't substantiate. That is the bottom line. Now, will Diddy do time? Absolutely. Will it be a long time? We're not sure and don't think so.
All right. Well, one thing's for sure, don't make it a long time before you return back here to the LZ.
Absolutely.
Al Reynolds, media personality extraordinaire, joining us right here on the Live Zone. Always good to see you.
Thank
my
you,
friend.
sir. Pleasure.
Can I borrow that next? Let me go so I can get that. We'll be right back. All right, guys, just like that, we're back on the Fox 5 Live Zones. Time now to go over the river and through the woods to see this guy. Yeah, Mr. Vernon Miles from Fairfax now joining us right here on the Live Zone. Good to see you, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, let's jump into it. In this case, we're going to talk about Fairfax County to update rules for preserving and developing manufactured homes. This is a big story for folks living in Fairfax County.
Yeah, exactly. We've talked a lot about affordable housing and kind of the critical need for it in Fairfax over the many years that we've been on doing this show. And part of the solution to that are these mobile homes that you see all around, particularly south of Alexandria. These are, we and I probably know them as trailer parks. I think mobile home communities are kind of the preferred term now. But in general, these are, kind of a critical place for people who may not be able to afford housing in other parts of Fairfax. And they're updating some rules about this. Now, the big takeaway from this is that if somebody is going to redevelop on what is currently a trailer park, a mobile home community, they have to replace the number of homes, like, for the ones that are on the site. So if they're building a new development, they have to have the same number of affordable homes as were places in the mobile home community there. And the priority for those places will go to the people that lived in the community.
Yeah. Vernon, I don't know how you remembered all of that. That's a lot to recite there, buddy. Good job. Let's move on to a fundraiser at a Herndon Tavern that's going to double as a farewell concert for the D.C. area rock band known as
Point of Rock. They are a local, I think, Maryland-based kind of rock music band. They also do a lot of covers from music from like the 70s up to the 90s, kind of classic rock, we're thinking. And yeah, they're having a farewell concert. Two of them, I believe, are moving away, and they said, it just isn't going to work if they like spread up like that. So they're having a farewell concert tonight in Herndon. This is for part of a program called Nova Live Music Mingle. It is also a fundraiser for a program called Studio Rock of Northern Virginia. That is a local school for kids to learn how to do music. So it's kind of a great way to go out for them.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I got to tell you, I love live music. There's nothing better than to get a chance, especially local bands as well. For me, it's kind of like when you're in college football, you're going to play a lot harder in order to get to the big leagues. That's what I think happens when you get a chance to check out local bands. Speaking of music, Vernon, I've been waiting to chit-chat with you about this all week long. There is a new poll about the best music venue in Fairfax County. Do tell.
Yeah, we ran a poll this week on what is the best music venue in Fairfax. As you noted, there are lots of good competitors, but the truth is, even from the start, I knew as soon as I saw this poll, there was never going to be any question. It is Wolf Trap by a lot, by 53%. Next closest is Capital One Center, and I totally agree. The second best concert I've ever been to was at Wolf Trap. It is a great venue for seeing this stuff. It's just great.
Yeah, and so I'm curious, what came in, did you say what came in second?
Second place was Capital One Center, which I know is the Patriot Center, but I guess I was
that's what it's called, okay.
Yeah. That one was number 2. Then Jam and Java, which is also a pretty great one over in Vienna, very small.
Yeah, the Wolf Trap, it's a great venue, especially on a cooler day, not like it's been as of late, but you get a chance to check out some amazing bands there. I saw Earth, Wind, and Fire there several years ago, and to your point, it's not only the venue itself, it's the acoustics. It's how the music bounces off the walls or what have you, and it's just really cool. I agree with you. So
yeah, I went. They did a screening of a Star Trek movie, and they had Michael Giacchino doing the score, composing it with the National Symphony Orchestra. It was incredible.
Now
so
that would be cool.
One of my favorites.
Did you bring a lightsaber with you when you were there?
It's a Star Trek movie. It's Star Trek.
I'm sorry.
Star Wars.
I'm sorry.
No.
Beam me out of here, Vernon. Beam me out of here. Vernon Miles with all things happening in Fairfax County. All right, guys. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back. All right, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Well, by now, you've likely heard that Elon Musk-owned X's CEO, Linda Yaccarino, announced her resignation in a surprise move just months after the social media platform was acquired by the billionaire's AI startup. Now, in a statement posted on the platform Wednesday, the former NBC Universal Advertising executive said she had decided to step down as CEO of X, following what she described as 2 incredible years, leading the company through a major transformation. Now, we should also make mention her departure comes one day after Musk's artificial intelligence chatbot repeatedly made anti-Semitic comments and referenced Hitler in response to posts about the Texas flooding. Joining us now to discuss this and so much more is Mr. J.C. Shepard, founder of Wimkim Social Media. He is an entrepreneur and free speech advocate who has launched numerous social media platforms to provide alternatives to combat big tech censorship. J.C., good to see you, sir, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Guy. I appreciate you having me.
All right, so I'm a little confused here, and so I can't be the only one. I would assume some of my viewers are confused as well. Let's start off with what in the heck happened? Why did she decide to resign, and what's going on with the AI chat box?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I think a lot of people were confused when they hired Ms. Yaccarino. You know, with the NBC Universal background, you know, that's video sales. There's not much anything going on with you know, social media advertising and such. And she really wasn't supposedly the right fit for a platform that promised no censorship. But, you know, to be quite honest with you, I don't think that, you know, and this is no disrespect to her, I don't think she understands the direction of the platform. I don't believe she understands, you know, artificial intelligence in general, how that's going to play into social media. It could be very problematic. I mean, I'm not a fan of artificial intelligence. The only place I like to see it is in medical. I don't believe it's going to be used for good in most situations. I think it's more nefarious than anything. And, you know, even Musk's own Grok is not working to his favor, as you mentioned, with the anti-Semitic comments. And then it also actually will call out Mr. Musk, you know, calling him eccentric, calling him, he started his new party to be a tech bro. I mean, there's so much wrong with what's happening. So I think that's certainly one of the reasons. Plus just I'll be honest, the mental instability of Elon Musk at this point in time.
Yeah. Oh, well, we've all seen that as of late. We can make reference to his back and forth with current President Trump. I want to stick on the AI chatbot, if you will, because I'm just trying to figure this out. And I get it. When you're the CEO, you know, any and everything that happens, you're responsible for. But correct me if I'm wrong, JC, but let's be real. I mean, I doubt she was there every day overseeing what was happening with the AI chatbot. And so I guess my question is, how can we prevent something like this from happening again?
Well, I mean, I think Musk is going to have to find somebody that's actually meant for this situation. I understand his mindset of bringing her in originally. I mean, she was uber successful, you know, in media advertising, of course, but media is very different than social media. So you're going to want to find somebody that comes from that realm first and foremost, and one of the, you know, possibly founders of AI, because, you know, Musk has one of the most popular platforms on earth. Of course, it, you know, was started by Jack Dorsey and turned into something that it probably was never supposed to be by Dorsey. And I praise Musk for pulling it out of the ashes, so to speak. But you're going to have to go in the direction of, you know, specifically with the CEO of where you're heading. I mean, they are AI. Musk has been involved in multiple AI operations, and you need to find somebody that's, you know, on that realm. And one of the other reasons I think Yaccarino isn't going to be there, she doesn't want to be involved with failure. I mean, if you look at how much money X has lost due to advertisers pulling and such, she just wasn't in a position where she could control the company, in my opinion. And, you know, right or wrong, you know, he's going to have to pull somebody in specifically that's from that realm.
Yeah, it's no secret that Elon Musk has stood on wanting, let's say, free speech, if you will. He has stated that time and time again, specifically when it comes to X. However, you too, you're an entrepreneur and free speech advocate. Is it fair to say that you're aligned with what he wants as well?
You know, I 100% am. I mean, my platform, Wimkin Social Media, we got our start. We founded ourselves September of 2020. So we legitimately only had about 4 months of, you know, a Trump administration that was unfortunately outgoing after November. But, well, I guess December when they finally called the election. But, you know, realistically, we got pulled into the House Select Committee on January 6th, they wanted us to turn over data on every single user. And when I say data, Guy, I mean they wanted phone numbers, they wanted private messages, they wanted credit card numbers, IP addresses, they wanted everything. And of course, we didn't cooperate with that. I've seen Musk many different times over censor people that don't agree with him. Laura Loomer comes to mind, where she was basically shut down. Her blue check mark was taken. She couldn't post the way she wanted just because she disagreed with him on some immigration aspects. It's happened before in the past too, where he said, I don't want you promoting any other platforms on X. So I personally don't believe Musk is a free speech absolutist. Again, I praise him. X is much better. But to say we're aligned, we love free speech. There's no doubt about that. But we actually fought for it. You know, we turned down DOJ subpoenas pretty much broad. We said, if you have something specific against somebody, come for it. But we're not going to build your investigation for you. And, you know, for what they asked for, it was tremendous overreach. It was government entitlement at the most gross levels. And, you know, to this day, we're the only company that did not cooperate with them. Parler, Getter, everyone else that was involved around that time certainly gave up their data.
And so with that, that leads me to my next question, JC, and that is, why would one not want free speech? Do you see where I'm going with this? What you just stated, quite honestly, I mean, that's my business, and I would want you to keep it, if you had access to that, between you and I. And so I can't understand why someone would be on the other side of the fence.
Well, I mean, you've seen it a lot with Section 230 of the Public Decency Act. You've seen court cases against the Biden administration to stop censoring, you know, individuals. Basically, they were censoring people that were stating something bad about the administration. I mean, that's really the only realm you'll see this in, where people don't want to have free speech. Those in control, those trying to, you know, have the consumers do what they want to do, that get the votes that they want to do. I mean, you work in media, you know, probably 95% of it is slanted. So, you know, it's unfortunate, but that's really where it comes from. I mean, people need the ability to free think. Free speech is also an opinion. And, you know, there's no place on earth that, you know, I believe free speech should not be allowed. I mean, you really won't get anywhere in society. It'll be an echo chamber for the rest of our lives if we don't do something about it.
Yeah, and I know I said that was my last question, but I want to make sure we're clear on this, and I think we both agree on this, and that is, although we believe in free speech, what happened with regard to the chatbot and the anti-Semitic messages that were going across, completely unacceptable.
Oh, yes. I mean, that's the aspect. I mean, when you say artificial intelligence, it's gathering intelligence from everything that's been known in the world, basically. So where they're pulling that from, I don't know, but they also can filter this. There's no doubt about it that this thing has its own mind. So you have to keep that in mind. You know, essentially, someone has the control of Grok. Someone has the control of these, you know, chat GPTs and Gemini that were, you know, completely warping the history of America and how we were founded. So definitely not okay. And you have to take control of what you're putting out there.
Good stuff. Yet again, we have been chatting with JC Shepard, founder of Wimkim Social Media. JC, I learned something new today, and that's because of you, my friend. Truly appreciate you joining us right here on the Live Zone.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right, guys, we'll take a quick break. Hey, on the flip side of the break, it's the summertime, is it not? Perhaps you're taking a summer travel destination. Well, if that's the case, you're going to want to know where to go. Chip Lupo from WalletHub joins us next to discuss just that on the Live Zone. All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Well, it's no secret. Cities want to attract highly educated workers to fuel economic growth and tax revenues. As you know, higher levels of education tend to lead to higher salaries, which leads me to this. The most and least educated cities in America. WalletHub conducted a study. Chip Lupo from WalletHub joins us now to break it all down. Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you too, Guy. Hope you had a really good 4th.
I did. Yeah, it's been quite. Full disclosure, we were trying to get you on since Monday, but we've been so busy. So yeah, I had a great 4th, and I hope you had a great 4th as well.
I don't mind getting bumped for the president. That's okay.
All right, Chip. So let's dig into this. We're talking about the most educated cities in America, and I'm a little surprised, somewhat perplexed, if you will, to see what number 1 happens to be.
Well, number 1, it's actually not all that surprising if you break it down. It's Ann Arbor, Michigan. Is number 1, which is home to the University of Michigan. It's an elite public university. The metro area itself, it's now this is outside of Detroit, probably 30-40 miles outside of Detroit. It's the most educated in the country because of its concentration of 96% of adults 25 or older have a diploma, 58% with a bachelor's degree, and almost a third with an advanced degree. And of course, it's 9th in the country when it comes to the quality of universities. And what's also key here too, Guy, is that it does have a very high, 18th best public school systems. And that's key when you have an area where with an elite higher education structure, that the public schools kind of follow suit.
All right, so I know we had to touch on number 1, but I'm pretty sure a lot of my viewers are like me and saying, if we're not number 1, who cares? In this case, I want to talk about where the DMV ranks, and that happens to be 5th on this list.
Right, the DC metro area is 5th, and rightfully so. It's 3rd in what we call the educational attainment. It does have the highest degree of bachelor degree holders, and it's tied for 1st in the percentage of graduate and professional degrees. Again, not all that surprising if you think of some of the fine institutions in and around Washington, D.C. You've got Georgetown, George Washington universities right there. A lot of really fine universities. And what's important too is when you're in an area with fine institutions of higher learning, is that we're keeping them there. A lot of folks say if you get a degree from Georgetown or George Washington or one of these universities, chances are because you're going to stay and get a job there.
Wow. You know what, Chip, you're talking directly to me and my family. My brother just graduated from Georgetown University, attained his law degree there, and he's not going anywhere. So to your point, you are so right about that.
Why not? I mean, why not? You're right there, and there's some really good networking going on between Georgetown, right, that close proximity to everything that goes on in government.
Yeah. However, I want you to touch on this, and that is, I'm looking at the chart here, and it says quality of education and attainment gap, DC placed 35th. Can you explain that?
Okay, now we're talking about there. That accounts for things such as gender gaps and racial gaps when it comes to education quality. And the DC area does seem to making strides in terms of gender equity, but there's still a ways to go as far as bridging that racial gap as far as educational attainment.
All right. Well, yet again, high five going out to the DC area, ranking number 5th on this list. Let's move on to, yes, it is summertime, and as you just made mention, we all celebrated the 4th of July 4th as we like to call it, and it's also a perfect time to hit the open road. Yes, a road trip. I just hate it when we do that because all I do is say, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? In this case, WalletHub.
Me too.
Highlighted the best.
Okay. We'd be making a pain of ourselves if we were traveling together for sure.
So you all looked at the best and worst states for summer road trips, and I got to tell you, Chip, I'm not too happy with what I'm seeing here. And so that is, as I scroll down, and typically when I do this, by the time I get to number 10, I'll see Washington D.C. on that list. I don't see that.
Right, because now with the summer travel, we only included the 50 states. So Washington D.C. does not qualify with these metrics. We just measure the 50 states. A lot of studies we do take all 50 states in Washington D.C. But D.C.
Well, heck, Chip, I don't see Virginia nor Maryland as well.
Not in the top 10. Now, Virginia came in at 18th. Maryland all the way at 41st. And part of the reason, guys, you would probably be aware is that the costs. It's pretty cost prohibitive in both states. Now, to be fair, on the flip side, where both states do very well is in number of activities, particularly in your home state of Virginia. There's a lot of historical landmarks ranked very high in historical sites per capita. Virginia likes to proclaim itself as being the history capital of the United States, and rightfully so.
Yeah. And so what about Maryland? Anything in particular we can point out that stood out to you?
Well, a lot of things that Maryland and Virginia have in common. There's ample shoreline, so there's plenty of room there for beach trips. So they both rank pretty high there. They both rank high in amusement and theme parks per capita, national park recreation visitors, and the share of total area of land that's designated for national park land. Now, where Maryland fell off is a little bit. There's pretty high traffic-related fatalities, high rate of car thefts, and also the crime rate.
Yeah.
That's always taken into account when you're talking about summer travel.
You made mention of the shorelines, and I got to tell you, for me, it's there's no better trip than heading to Ocean City and celebrating summer there. We used to do it as a kid for 2 weeks out of the summer. I absolutely love that place. I don't care what anyone
Prime
says.
vacation spot for sure.
All right, so before I let you go, I got to touch on what number one happens to be, and so I guess yes, I'm a hater, but I just don't understand why. How in the heck did Minnesota come up in the numero uno spot?
Minnesota is number one because it's called the land of 10,000 lakes for a reason. There's plenty of water recreation in Minnesota. But keep in mind also the time frame we're talking about. We're talking about summertime here. So the climate in Minnesota is actually pretty mild, and they have absolute ton of festivals, a ton of local and county fairs. In fact, I was in Minneapolis in 2010, and we went to the Minnesota State Fair, which is huge. It's unlike anything you've ever seen. They have it at the end of August leading into Labor Day. And they have to because of the climate. We couldn't do that here in Columbia, South Carolina, when it's 95 degrees and humidity to match. Our state fair is more traditional in the middle of August. So this is the perfect time of year for Minnesotans to have all of their big events because the weather is just perfect for it.
Yeah, well, I guess I have to admit that the math is mathing, as they say, and except that Minnesota is number one. Chip, always good to see you, my friend. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Chip Lupo with WalletHub joining us.
Anytime, guys. We'll talk again soon.
You bet. All right, guys, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. All right, guys, back here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. Well, it's hard to believe, but the U.S. has reported, count them, over 1,200 measles cases this year. That's the highest number in 33 years, according to the latest figures from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Now, the last time the U.S. saw more measles cases, back in 1992. That's 8 years before the disease was declared eliminated in the country. Joining us now to discuss this and so much more is Dr. Sogol Ash. Dr. Ash, always good to see you, and welcome back to the show.
Good to see you.
All right, so I got to ask, and let's just get right to it. What gives? Why the surge? What's going on here?
Yeah, so we haven't seen a surge like this. We've had herd immunity since 2000. And the reason we're seeing this surge is that we've lost that herd immunity. And to have herd immunity, you need 95% vaccination rates. And right now we're at about 93. So we've kind of lost that herd immunity.
And so with being vaccinated, and I'm sure you're going to touch on that, but is that the key? Is that meaning from a very early age, we need to make sure that folks are vaccinated against the measles? But if we're seeing a surge, if you will, that means for some time, folks weren't doing just that, were they not?
Exactly. Yeah. So right now, with measles, vaccination is the best way to protect ourselves. I would think of the herd immunity as kind of like a protective shield over a community. And we don't have that right now. And that means that less people are getting vaccinated. I think since COVID and the vaccines, there's been a lot of hesitation and people are asking questions. Parents are concerned and they have valid concerns. So we're definitely seeing the kindergarten vaccination rates go down.
Yeah, well, as we am sitting here looking at B-roll and seeing what measles looks like, quite honestly, I don't want that, and I would assume that you don't want that, and I would assume that most parents wouldn't want their children suffering from that. So do you think we'll see an about face, if you will? Will parents start to make sure that they vaccinate their children?
I think that things are going to start to shift as we see things getting worse, especially like in Texas, we have an epicenter of the outbreak. So I think that things will start to shift, and we are seeing RFK try to make changes and remove thimerosal from vaccines. So I think that things are going to change. But I always say that the most important thing is to always personalize it for each patient, each person, right? If someone's immunocompromised, if someone's pregnant, we have to personalize protocols for each person.
Yeah. All right. So you heard me make mention of the kiddos, but what about us adults? Let's say I find out that I, too, am not vaccinated. That's probably something that I should get taken care of ASAP.
Yes, exactly. So if you haven't been vaccinated, if you have been vaccinated since about, I think, 1956 or 1957, you should be covered. If you had both doses, then you'll be, covered. If you had just one dose, you get 93% coverage. So still good either way.
All right. Yet again, the numbers are, the proof is in the pudding. More than 1,200 measles cases this year, the highest number in 33 years. It's the real deal. We've been speaking with Dr. Sogol Ash, kind enough to join us right here on the Live Zone. Always good to see you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. You're welcome.
Bye.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. On the flip side of that break, we got a couple of thunderstorms in the forecast. Tucker Barnes will join us, and then we'll get a preview of what to expect tonight on Like It or Not when Cecilia joins us with the breakdown. We'll be right back. How about we talk weather, shall we?
Yes.
Tucker Barnes joining us, and I want to say, Tucker, we're not in Kansas anymore.
No, we had a tornado warning last night. Let me very quickly give a shout out to Kyle. He's a great guy.
Love that dude. Yeah, he's a great
he's
guy.
a really
Always
good guy.
giving back in a major way.
I'll be watching. I always look forward to him. Yeah, and he does give back. Okay, let me give back. Maybe we could give back yesterday's weather when it came in.
Thank you.
And yeah.
Sheesh.
Yeah, that bottom line, that was a long evening with lots of warnings and tornado warnings and flash flood warnings and a lot of it verifying there last night. So let's calm things down. The good news with the forecast, and we'll go right to the good news, we are not expecting the same kind of fireworks out there later this afternoon.
Thank God.
So, yeah, got a lot of clouds in the forecast. Still very sticky, still quite humid out there. And daytime highs in the mid-80s for us later this afternoon. But could there be a shower or storm for your Thursday? There could. But with all this cloud cover, we're not going to get the big billowing buildup of thunderstorms that we had yesterday. So that's the bottom line. 78 at this hour in Washington, 78 Dulles. Again, 85 is Guy, about 5 degrees below normal. So temperature-wise, we won't be too hot.
Okay.
It'll still be steamy out there. Hey, if you want to sweat with dew points in the 70s, it won't take much exertion to start sweating. And there's a live look at your satellite. You can see for yourself all the cloud cover across the area. And it will be in no hurry to kind of get out of here today. So, you know, could there be a peak of sunshine? Could you get a little sun here or there? You certainly could, but you're not going to get a lot. And that's probably good news, because if we got a lot of sunshine, guess what we get late today?
I know. It gives it fuel for a thunderstorm.
You got it.
Yes,
Good
I
call.
listen, Tucker.
You put sunshine on top of the kind of humidity we had around here the last couple of days, and you got the makings of thunderstorms. So we won't put that sunshine out there today, and that'll help hold back on the thunderstorm activity. Big picture, the front that we've been talking about last couple of days is parked just to our north today, so we won't be the focal point for major thunderstorms. We'll reset tonight. So once again, could there be a shower or a storm later today? There could, but they'll be very widely scattered. So we're in pretty good shape. Tomorrow we look good in the morning for the zip trip, and then the forecast going forward Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, temperatures about where they should be, upper 80s. Generally sunshine with a late day thunderstorm each day, but it won't be the kind of action that we had the last couple afternoons. So they'll be widely scattered.
Yeah, as soon as I got home yesterday, I took a nap and I woke up. I looked outside. The rain was going this way, not this way.
No, it
this
was.
way. I was like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, and that was one mean-looking sky there for a period of time
Sheesh.
late yesterday.
Wow. Well, okay.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Tucker Barnes with all things weather right
Have a
here
great
on the
day.
Live Zone. Appreciate it, sir. Hey guys, you see that right there? Yeah, that's the Fox. What do we call that, Tucker?
That's the Fox local app.
Yeah, Fox local app. Okay, I'm still thinking about the rain. Excuse me. All you got to do is click on that QR code and you can download it. That way you can take that weather and think about the rain like me on the go. So you're laughing too because I have
Guy,
so much to remember.
that was bad.
Hey, I'm sorry. I'm so busy over here.
No, I know you
Fox
are.
local app.
I just can't believe it doesn't roll off your tongue at this point.
By the way, they're watching us on the Fox local app.
You guys know they were home. You know how sometimes like you scream the answer at the
Yeah.
game? They're like, Fox local guy.
Yeah, I should know that. Oops. All right. So Cecilia now joining us with, I know the show that comes up at 7 o'clock, like it or not, tonight. And of course, you're going to have a plethora of topics, one of which happens to be, I'm so confused, vibe-based budgeting?
Yeah.
What's that all about?
We're all about the vibes, Guy.
Okay.
So apparently half of Gen Z and millennials have said, yep, I'm looking out at the economy. I'm not really sure how my personal financial situation fits into all of this. Apparently, well, I'll get to that. But so when it comes to, am I spending? Am I eating out? How do I feel? I'm going on vibes. Does it seem like the market's a little scary today? Well, then
okay.
I'll cook my food. But you know what? I feel like we had a good day. Maybe I'll go on a little shopping spree. It's all
Wow.
about how we feel when we're waking up. Am I selling it? I'm trying.
No, because, well, if you have an unlimited budget, heck yeah.
Sure.
But I've done that before. You know what? I did that the other day. I did that on, Tuesday. I woke up Wednesday. I was beyond livid with myself. I spent a little bit too much money than I should. It was all about the vibes.
Yeah, all about the vibes. Well, think about your whole life being like that for half of these people. Now, experts are saying it is a lot to do with social media because when they ask these people, okay, you know, how are you feeling about the economy? A lot of them saying, I'm feeling unsure, I'm feeling anxious. But then when they asked, well, are you saving money every month? Are you coming in positive? A lot of them were saying, yes, I am. And so it's very interesting. It's actually very much based on, I'm scrolling through social media, I'm hearing scary things.
That's wow.
Vibes.
Okay, I can't wait to watch. Yet again tonight, 7 o'clock, right here on Fox 5. We'll end with this, and we got about 2 minutes left, and that is using hypnosis to rid ourselves of bad habits.
Yeah, so a lot of people are now getting hypnotized in hopes that it will keep them from drinking.
Oh, gosh.
I guess dry January is really pushing through. Now, personally, I think that I'm fascinated by the concept. But I don't know if I'm brave enough to actually undergo hypnosis.
That is so true. What if they discover something that
Right,
you
what
and
if I say something?
What if I was abducted by aliens and then I realize it?
Yeah, I don't know, Guy. I'm with you. Like, I'm also kind of like, what are they going to make me do? I guess maybe that's some trust issues too. Like, I want to be present at all times. So
I'm with you on that, but you know, and yet again, that leads us back to what our first topic happened to be, and that is money. And so you're going to have to spend money in order to teach yourself not to do something that you should be disciplined enough not to do.
yeah, I mean,
Huh.
I guess you might have bigger problems there
Yeah.
too. I don't know. We're going to talk about it. I'm curious to see if the panel wants to get hypnotized
Do
tonight.
we know who the panel happens to be yet?
It's going to be Chaos Thursday regulars. So
Oh.
we got Jim, Marina, Angie, and Sunny joining us
Yeah,
tonight.
it's definitely chaos. It was funny. We teased her the other day on Monday when I happened to be on. We were talking about the coffee pods that were disappearing for quite some time.
I didn't know that, Guy.
Oh, it's a true story.
I'm just dealing with these coffee pods that honestly I don't know how to use them.
You should make that a topic on Like It or Not.
Just have my whole producer cam be like, Sonny, I learned something, and now I got to talk to you, girl.
All right, Cecilia, with all things that are happening tonight, beginning at 7 o'clock right here on Fox 5, or you could watch it on the Fox local app. Thank you.
There
And
he goes.
speaking of clicking on QR codes, why don't you click on this? Obviously, top of mind for so many of us, the travesty that took place in Texas. Now more than, at last check, 119 folks dead, 170 still missing. Well, the question is, how can you help out? You see it right there on your screen. Click on the QR code so that you too can lend a helping hand. And then real quick, this upcoming Saturday, yes, we are celebrating the Defenders in a major way. And you can check that out on the Fox local app yet again. See, I got it right, Cecilia.
Got it.
4 to 6 o'clock. Click on that and you are good to go. On behalf of my producer, Remy, I'm Guy Lambert. This is Cecilia. The Take coming up next right here on Fox 5.